Great, isn't it? So welcome back from the break. Next up now, right next to me, we have Rick Ravenel, art director at Encore Hollywood. Looking sharp, dude.
Right, right.
Said he was going to wear a tie. Who's going to be impressed by that?
Everybody.
Your boss, especially?
No,
No,
probably
you're
not,
probably going to get a lot of hassle for
Yeah,
that.
definitely.
But I think you look gorgeous.
Thank you very much.
You look absolutely gorgeous.
Yes.
So he's going to be showing how they use Nuke over Encore on Extant. Available for questions, hashtag TFNAB. Over to you, gorgeous.
Thank you. So as Beck says, I was the art director at Encore Hollywood. I'm also a compositor and motion graphics artist. Encore is a full-service post house. We're located in Hollywood. We specialize in visual effects for television. Maybe you've recognized some of those shows up there. We do 2D, 3D effects work and motion graphics. And because we work in television, we have very tight budgets and a very, very quick turnaround time. So usually we have maybe 20 to 40 shows running all at the same time. So we're doing VFX all the time. And to give you a better idea of what we do, here's our 2014 reel. So you can see a pretty wide gamut of lots of different kinds of stuff. Actually, before I talk about this, the reason I'm wearing a tie right now is because at Encore we do Tie Tuesday. I wanted to get everybody dressing up. Usually it's only 1 or 2 people that do it, but why not, right? So every Tuesday I always wear a tie wherever I am. So the show I'm going to talk about today is Extant. We did the season 1 at Encore. It was a Steven Spielberg CBS Amblin television show. Season 1 was 13 episodes long. Combination of 3D, compositing, and motion graphics. Lots of different stuff going on there. The space station stuff you guys saw earlier, that was from Extant. Since we're in television, our average turnaround time is about 2 weeks. And that's 2 weeks from when we get the plates to when it actually has to be delivered. So for something like that space station shot, luckily we were able to get started on that a little bit earlier. But any of the 2D comp stuff, it comes in, let's say like on a Tuesday, we have temps on Thursday, it delivers Wednesday the next week. And we're not just working on one show at once. We got 4 shows, 15 shows, whatever's going on. And then we also have multiple episodes of the same show in-house at the exact same time. For this show, we had a core team of about 12 artists. That was 2D and 3D, which is pretty cool. We had about 6 compositors and 6 3D guys. On the 2D side, we used Nuke, Hero, and After Effects. And then for 3D, we did 3D Studio Max, Maya, and V-Ray. The entire post-production time from when we first started pre-production on Extant to when we delivered the last shot was about 7 months. So 13 episodes, 7 months, hundreds and hundreds of VFX shots. That's what we do every day. So workflow, why Nuke? Well, since we are a full-service post house, we have colorists downstairs, and we have online artists and everything, so we have to have a very specific CDL color pipeline. So we're able to bring these CDLs into Nuke while we were working, so we know exactly what our shots are going to look like after it goes from VFX to the colorist. Because the last thing you want is work on this really cool shot, and it gets crushed in color. We do a lot of multi-pass compositing in Nuke. This way we can lay out everything, see everything that's going on. Very helpful. One thing I use it a lot for is a visual version management system. So I bring in all the versions of all the shots that we've done, make contact sheets for all the artists so you can see how it's actually been progressing throughout the shot. And my favorite part is the 3D system, because I do a lot of motion graphics, so the 3D system allows me to make some really cool stuff. And After Effects, that's my main package that we did a lot of the graphics elements for this show. Extant, it takes place about 20 years in the future, so there's lots of little tablets and computer screens and holograms, all kinds of cool stuff like that. And most of that stuff was designed and conceptualized within After Effects, but then brought into Nuke for any of the final compositing. So the shot that I brought today I'm going to show is called the Da Vinci Machine. A little background on that. So in Extant, we have androids that are in the future. And these androids, they have these machines that kind of show all the activity of what's going on, right? So this is basically a visual representation of what is going on with this android. So this is the final shot, minus the blurry background. I can't show you those guys. But so here we have a hologram that's comped entirely in Nuke, graphics, and some other cool stuff. So this was a good example that we're using comp, graphics, and compositing all together right within Nuke. We did Max and V-Ray for the actual little hologram guy. All the graphics were done in After Effects, and then projected, comped, everything going on in Nuke. From initial concept design and everything, we did everything in-house. So the client basically came to us, they're like, hey, we want a cool hologram that looks like a boy. Let's see what you can do. So that was really fun because we were able to actually conceptualize it from beginning all the way to the end. And you'll notice my little Nuke script there is pretty clean. I tend to be very anal when it comes to that sort of thing. So I'm actually going to take you through the entire comp for this shot right now. This plays. There we go. So here it is. Here's the final shot playing back in Nuke. I did pre-render this, so that's why it's playing so fast. But yeah, lots of little cool elements all coming together here. And in a second, I'll go to the script here. So here we go. It's not very complex, but pretty organized. I actually color all of my pipes in Nuke so I can know the directions that everything go. Everything that goes down is always going to be blue. Things that go to the right are yellow. Things that go to the left are going to be magenta. And if for some reason there's ever anything that goes straight up, which I absolutely despise, it turns a bright red. So whenever I open up any other artist comps, I can see very quickly what they're doing. And then you can see the bright red line. Not very cool. Don't like that. So down here in the, up here we have all the 3D passes for this hologram. And they're not your typical AOVs. There's no beauty, there's no reflection, specular, any of that kind of stuff. This is actually just passes we created to make the hologram by ourselves. So there's going to be like a fall-off pass. There's maybe some sort of wire, vein, nerves kind of stuff going on. And also we have the 3D track that came from our 3D guys, which really helped me out a lot because I was able to use that to project a bunch of cool stuff on there. So down here at the bottom, I have a bunch of previous versions and some of the concept versions that we had sent to the client previously. So this kind of shows the progressions of what this thing could actually look like. And I really like being able to do this in Nuke because I can have everything in here. I'm looking at each of the different iterations, and then here's actually the final versions of what this thing goes from. Beginning is going to be like a status, then moving towards a little bit more activity going on in the knees and the elbows and all that kind of stuff. So we're just going to start from the beginning. The main pass that we got was this, it's going to be this base layer. It's just a red and green lighting pass of, I guess, a naked boy. But so we just, switched out the pass we wanted for that, desaturated it. And this is one of the fall-off passes I was talking about. What's really nice about this one is that it's actually not a true fall-off because you don't see through every single piece of it. Where it's more of a subsurface scattering mixed with the fall-off. And we actually end up taking this pass, desaturating it, blurring it, adding a little bit of color, and then adding that to the other pass we had here, making it a little bit blue. And you can see right by the little feet, so this thing is being illuminated by light. I want to make sure that there's light coming up from the bottom, so we're getting little light leaks off the bottom of his feet there. Something that was going to help later on to actually sell that this whole thing is really, really bright. So here's where we move into the veins, all the stuff that's going on inside of him, all the activity. And again, like with everything else, I have all of this color-coded, so I know what's happening. Blue, like I said, is going to be sort of a stasis. He's just booting up. Then we move through green to orange to red. So the first one is just desaturated veins. And so this is sort of showing how this android's made up. He's got a bunch of veins going through him. There's energy that's pulsing through this sort of thing. It's a visual representation of the android. And I just have a really quick little dissolve through here to actually dissolve between one that's all white into one that actually has a little bit of blue going on into it. This will be typically when this machine turns on, it boots up, the guy goes into a standby mode. Maybe the android just hanging out, watching a TV, playing video games or something like that, not really doing too much. But then we move over to the next one. You see there's a little bit of color going on in the elbows and the knees. So this would be maybe he's walking around. He's just doing very minimal activity, but still doing something. So we wanted to show just a little bit of different colorations in these actual areas. And then moving forward, even more activity. Maybe he's starting to run now or something like that. We also used these later on in the show for kind of like how he was feeling. Like if he was having like a very intense thing going on with his chest or whatever, we actually have a chest layer that's all the way on the right. That's bright red, so that would be like something gnarly is happening to this guy right now. Yeah, and this is just another more intense running, sprinting, jumping jacks, doing CrossFit or something like that. And yeah, and here's that bright red thing. And one thing we'll notice about this vein pass that we have, there's actually no head. So I had to have the 3D guys render me a head because it's not really going to look right without that. So we actually did a completely separate pass for the head because we weren't sure if we were going to have any sort of energy going on inside his head because he's an android. We're not really sure how that was going to work with the client, and they actually wanted the head just to be a solid color and not have too much stuff going on here. So here we go. Here's the pass for the head. There's a bunch of red, green, and blue mats. Just shuffled it out real quick, get the head going. And it started to look kind of cool, but as with everything, it's not going to be perfect. So I wanted to break it up with a little bit of noise because this is all energy-based, right? this energy and light, all of these things are, they're not perfect. So I just took a little quick noise pass. You can see it right here. It's actually animated very slightly just to give it kind of like a shimmer, which is kind of cool. I'm using that to break up the rest of the veins there. And we move down and over to the right. Just a little bit of color treatment going in here and some glows. And all of that gets put together with the base that we built up earlier. So we have our base pass with the light coming up from the bottom. And now we have our veins and stuff that's going on inside of this thing. So the hologram's starting to look a little bit like the shot that you guys saw earlier. Let's see what I do now. I'm probably just looking at how awesome it looks right now. So here we go. Now we move over to this this side over here on the left. We had the veins, we had some color, we had things. Now we wanted to get a little bit of energy moving through these veins. We weren't sure how that was really going to work in 3D because 3D guys had to build all these veins. It took a good long time, and then we wanted to put little energy going through those. We weren't sure how that was going to work. So I quickly took one of the UV passes that they gave me, took an ST map, used some noise, cut out the part in the middle because I didn't really want it to feel like he had a spine, and used the noise in the ST map to actually create a noise pattern that wraps around all of these veins internally. So it was really, really cool because I could really quickly make something that if the client liked it, we could push it farther, give it to the 3D guys, be like, all right, this is something that they want. We wanted to have this energy that pulses through there, but want it to be a little bit more defined. So you can see right here, I'm just copying the alpha back through, pre-multing, blurs, glows, all the stuff that makes it look cool. And this was a still that we were sending to the client, so it actually wasn't rotating, it wasn't moving yet. But so I just time offsetted everything so we could kind of get the idea of this energy sort of pulsing through. It's going to take a little bit to cache right here, but in the end, it was a really, really quick way just to sort of sell this to the client that this is how it's going to look. And I mean, being able to do this in Nuke really fast without any help from the 3D guys, because they're expensive and they take too long sometimes. No, I love all those guys. But this was really quick, and get it out, got it approved. And then one thing we heard from the client is they were like, oh, well, maybe we can have some that move a little bit slower. We have some that, they start from the center and pulse outwards, or they go from the hips and go down through the legs or something like that. So after we had this one, I just did a secondary pass. It's going to be over on the right here. Is just a little bit slower noise. And there's also a like a solid wipe that goes through there too. So it kind of looks like it's a scan line starting from the bottom, going up to the top. Again, made of light, just trying to make it look kind of techy and cool, right? Yeah, so you can see that pass right here. But this actually wasn't what we ended up using, because when we showed the client this, they liked it, they thought it was really cool, but they thought it would look even better if the areas like around the elbows and the knees, the dots pulse faster through there. So the only way that I could think about doing that was, still using STMap, roto those areas, put them in there, might get kind of messy. So that is when we pulled the plug and actually sent this back to 3D department to have them attach the little dots to all the little veins and make them go faster through the elbows, the chest, his knees, all of that sort of stuff. But I wouldn't have been able to do that without, first just layering it out. So I was really happy with that. I think in a second here to start to see the 3D ones. That air is so dry out here. I swear. All right, so yeah, moving over to the right. Here's those 3D dots I talked about. So these are ones that they made. You see how they really, really look a lot different from the STMap ones that we made earlier. These flow on the lines themselves. They speed up through the elbows. They speed up through the knees there. Much cooler looking. I wish I could have done that, but, I did what I could. And these are going to get the same treatment. There's going to be blurs. They're going to get some blue, a little bit of glow. Yep, so then those get added on. Going down through the script here. Little bit of horizontal light streaks. So there we go. Now we have our base guy with our veins, and we have the 3D version of the dots. This thing actually ended up getting resized, and then have to add grain to everything, obviously. So we got back over here. So this is the color pipeline thing I was talking about earlier. So this is the CDL that we got. This is OCIO from the colorist. So we can drop this right into Nuke, rename it as a viewer input, turn it on and off, and I can see exactly what the shot is going to look like once it goes through color. It's really, really important to be doing this because I can't tell you how many times we have artists that are like, hey, why does my shot look so much different in dailies? Oh, well, you forgot to put the CDL on. So being able to toggle that on and off directly within Nuke very quickly, it's great. So we actually have two outputs here. We render our non-color raw DPXs, and then we render a color DPX, which then gets translated into a QuickTime, and that's what the client actually looks at. So when we deliver, we actually deliver all three of those deliverables for this show specifically. So we had raw DPXs, color DPXs, and then a QuickTime. Yep, there it is. Turning the input process on and off. And since this is the render, I can turn the input process on and off of the render. You can see the difference between them. So here's the original plate. There actually was a studio light that we had to paint that out real quick up at the top there. Yeah, here you go. Because that was going to be right where his head was. It was not going to look good. And so this stuff that's up here at the top, this is the graphics part that I was talking about. This is my favorite part of this project, is that I was able to do all these graphics and then drop them into Nuke and really utilize the 3D system just to make some really cool stuff. So this was just really quickly just done in After Effects, little dots and lines, some text it types out. Doesn't really say anything. It's referred to that as GAC. That's what it is. And I did it all in a flat card because I knew I could just cut out these pieces, rotate them around, organize them within Nuke, and line them up on pieces of the body. So like, let's say I wanted to have two that come out of his chest. So I'll just put a card there, rotate it, and there they are. Same thing if I want to have one come out of his knee. So I rearranged them this way. I'm just dropping them on. You can even see it says cylinder GAC. It's right there. Yeah, and these glow, grain, put on top. So I'm building all of this actually before the hologram goes on top, because I wanted to make sure that the hologram, once it's on top of this, it can interact with these little callouts, like these holdouts that we have of the information. I noticed earlier that when we were putting this hologram on top of stuff, since it's illuminated by light, it's got really, really bright. So I took the alpha of the actual boy, darkened the plate behind it, so it actually looked like it was sitting in there. And then I put a little bit of distortion in there, and then graded it down. So you can see where the graphics line up with him. They're actually blurry, So I thought that was kind of a cool touch in there. And moving down, you can see I have the secret sauce, which in this case was actually the cylinder base. Like I said, from the 3D guys, 3D trackers, I got a cylinder that lined up exactly where this part was. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. I don't have to do a roto shape down there, and I don't have to do it on the top. I can just take that cylinder that you gave me, cut off the top and bottom, put it right in there. It's going to line up exactly where it needs to be. So this was a really quick way of getting a container for this actual holographic boy to sit inside. So it seems like it's being illuminated from the bottom. It goes up to the top piece caps it, right? So here we go. We have the top piece, the bottom piece, some of the graphic stuff going in there. And then moving down, I wanted to add a little bit of volume raise, a little bit of glowy bits in there, because why not? You see that comes right through here. And then I used the alpha of the volume raise to do a little bit of heat distortion with that as well, just to, again, give it this feeling that it's being projected and pulsing and looking cool there. Luckily, right here, we're actually able to darken the rest of the plate down to make this thing feel really bright. Typically, they never give us the liberty to do that, but in this case, they start to see some early concepts they thought it looked really cool, so we're actually able to do that, and that was pretty awesome. Yeah, right there. And then the next little bit is dust motes. Got to have dust motes, anything light. So put a little bit of those, kiss them in on the bottom. Tiny, tiny details, but I really wanted to put them in there, so I had to make them as small as possible so nobody else could see them. But so you can kind of see them in there. And then actually the Hollow Boy goes on top of all of that. So this was one of the first versions that we sent to the client. And I knew I wanted to put in some more graphics, right? I'm a graphics guy. I want to have some cool gack around this thing. We sent them this one, and they liked it. They thought it was really cool. But then I did this additional pass without my creative director knowing of this stuff. So this is a bunch of other lines and graphics that are writing out more cool stuff. And I thought to myself, man, maybe if I wrap this around that cylinder, it could really, really contain this holographic guy in there. I'm like, that might look really cool. Had no idea if it was going to work, so I simply just dropped it onto the cylinder, plugged it into the scene, put a glow on it, and I was like, oh man, this looks great. So excited right now. So I rendered that version out too. We actually ended up sending both versions to the client. We might have sent 3, one of just the boy himself, one with the little things coming out of it, the call-outs, and then the third one was the one that had the, you'll see it in a second here, the cylinder. I mean, look how cool that looks laid out in 3D. Like typically I would have to give that to a 3D guy in the 3D department. They would wrap it around the cylinder, line it up. But I'm able to do this right here, move my cards, push things around. I can even rotate it and add additional graphics elements based off that flat plane I have, put stuff in there wherever I want. So that was really cool. And like I was saying, we sent 3 different versions. The one they ended up going with was my version, which is the one with the cylinder and everything. So that was just like, such a great thing. And this was really early on in the project, so luckily we were able to get their confidence, because they're like, all right, if we let these guys do creative stuff, they're actually going to do some really cool things, and that's really, really important to get from your client early on, because then they're like, you know what, just make something that looks cool. We know it's going to look cool because you've done all this other cool stuff. So for me, that was really awesome. I got to do a shot that I thought was really great. Client loved it. That means everybody was happy. Yep, and there it is. That's the final shot again. So that's actually all I have for you today. If you guys have any questions, I'll be around. And also, if you want to visit Encore Post, you can see more of the stuff that we do.
All right, thank you very much. That was fantastic.
Yeah, no problem.
Very cool stuff. I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
First of all, and most importantly to me, in your demo reel, I need to know what television program that scary monkey child was in so that I never, ever watch it.
That was The River.
Okay,
Yes.
Thank you. That was the most terrifying
Yeah, that was
thing.
another Spielberg, Abilene Entertainment one.
That was that
Yeah, the
freaked
little
me out.
kid. We had this little kid in there, and he would just roar up, and we had no idea what it was going to end up looking like.
The monkey was
gnarly.
scary, but then seeing the child in there actually was a little bit. I know that wasn't that was that.
Yeah, it was
the reference,
kind of
but
creepy seeing
yeah,
that in there too.
terribly
though,
freaky. Okay, so then I'm going to ask you a few basic Nuke questions so
Sure.
that those who aren't that familiar with Nuke can get a little more insight. The contact sheet view that you showed there, where you
Yeah.
had all the different versions up, so you can kind of pick. Can you tell us a little bit about how you employ that?
Yeah, so the contact sheet is just a node, and you can have unlimited inputs into it. So you can bring in, let's say, versions of the plate, versions of 3D renders, versions of whatever, and you connect them into there. And what it does is it actually just makes an array of everything you have. And you can adjust the size, so if you want one really big or really small, and it just gives you a really nice way of seeing everything that you want in one little sheet. You can actually do that with shots, too. So we can bring in 3D renders or final versions of everything, play through it, and we can see how each individual one changes.
And I noticed that you guys. It seems like you do a lot of almost concept art for a shot inside of Nuke.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people think of Nuke that way. Can you tell us a little bit about the processes and the speed?
Yeah, well, for me, it's more of just the speed and for me, the color tools and blurs and glows. It's just things that I can do really, really fast. Since everything is 32-bit, stuff's not going to get clipped, So it's going to look, for something like this, a glowy, bright hologram. I'm going to jump into Nuke, mess with the color, put some cool glows on it, and then actually end up rendering out stills just to send to the client. But then since I started it in Nuke and they approve it afterwards, everything's already built and ready to go. So when we have multiple shots of this, it's already built in our Nuke pipeline. You know, if I did it in something else, like if I did a Photoshop still, well, then another artist is going to have to bring that Photoshop still, try to match that in Nuke, which may or may not work, and then the final product might not look like what the client actually approved. So I really like starting in Nuke and ending with Nuke.
When you in your demo reel, obviously, and you made the point very clear that you guys churn out a phenomenal amount of visual effects work, and I think people watch television today and they don't realize how much VFX work they're seeing. How important is the workflow and the node flow in Nuke in terms of providing you with the production speed that you need to get that work done?
Yeah, it's much faster, definitely with the node view, and being able to send scripts back and forth between artists, and obviously being very neat is very helpful in television because we have like 60 or 80 artists, and everybody's working on the same shows, multiple shows. People don't come into work, they get sick, whatever, they go out to lunch. You have to be able to pick up that shot really quickly, and being able to just run it in Nuke. And we actually have a couple scripts that we write so we can actually fast cache everything to our local drives. We have a lot of SSDs in all of our drives, so we can actually run almost in real time a lot of stuff in Nuke, which is very helpful for us.
Yeah, I think there's a misconception that with a strictly layer-based approach to compositing, yes, you can throw a few things in very quickly, but if you're doing real production, that speed advantage on a quick project is quickly surpassed by Node 2.
Because we'll get shots in, and it'll be like you have an hour and a half to finish this shot. We don't have the plates yet. Plates come in like 30 minutes. You have an hour from start to finish to do something.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
Bex, what do we have from the internets?
I do. I have some. So, sorry, I'm standing on a box here.
It's not fair.
They can't see me. What shot management system do you use, and how customized is it? Is it F-Track or Shotgun?
We use Shotgun.
You use Shotgun.
Yeah, we use Shotgun. It's actually, we customize it as much as we can at the moment. It works very well since we have just hundreds of shots all the time, lots and lots of shows. It's actually been really helpful for us. And we can actually launch our reviews straight from Shotgun. We can highlight a whole bunch of shots, send them to the dailies thing, and that pops up. We look at them. We can have the coordinator typing in notes, and they actively will get dropped into Shotgun, kick the shot back. So the artist will actually already be working on it before we're done with our daily session, which is actually really nice.
Okay. How did he get his UI to display a different color based on the flow direction of the pipe?
Oh, it's a preference in Nuke. So if you go to the preferences folder or file preferences, there's actually you'll see all 4 arrows. You can click on each of the arrows. They're all black right now, but if you want to change them to any fancy colors, he's excited about it. Yeah, you can change them. You can make them any colors you want. Same with much of the other interfaces.
It's always the little things.
A little tip
it makes me
there.
happy. You know?
A little tip. Rick, what other personal customizations do you like to add to Nuke, like the colored pipes? So is there any other things that you like to add?
The only thing that I use besides that is all of my backdrops are always the same color, and I always have the same fonts for all of my stuff. I get very anal about that kind of thing. Different workspaces, different layouts, because sometimes we're working on laptops, sometimes we're working on multiple monitors. But just being able to really quickly just change your workspace, that whatever works best for you, that's kind of what I like to do about it.
How much time did you have for working on previs in this project?
For Extent, the only thing that we had a lot of time for previs was for that main space station. I think we had maybe about a month for that, because they didn't really have an idea of what they wanted to look like. They knew they wanted a box with like a circle around it, and Props had made something. When they showed us that, and we took that, put it in the computer, made some other stuff, and then we did just probably 10 to 15 iterations of this space station until it got to be what you guys saw. So I think probably about a month just for the space station.
Wow.
Most of the other things, like the Da Vinci machine or things like that, we have days to get stuff out. We try to do something as fast as possible, get it to the client, see if they like it, and then push through with everything else.
Awesome. So someone says, wow, what a reel. They loved it the minute the show reel stopped.
It's great.
Loved it. And
some really cool logos in there, right?
The monkey baby. We saw it in rehearsals, and we were like, oh, on Saturday night.
And the cow when it gets cut in half, right?
We were all like, oh, God. Amazing. Really amazing. Round of applause for Rick. So next up we have Andrew Ashton from Murata. We will be back after a commercial break. No, you're after that. You're the last one, John. So next up is Andrew Ashton from Murata.